Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Tracy Burns in for Eric Bowling. All right, so gold is having wild swings today, trading at record highs, but believe it or not, settling low. So is this a buying opportunity, or should you just get the heck out now? With us, we have our gold bear, David Dietz, president of Point View Financial Services, and our gold bull, Jay Taylor, president and CEO of Taylor Hard Money Advisors. Jay, I got to start with you. You got to tell me why I should buy gold now, because I'm old school, and I would just rather buy a good old stock paying a solid dividend over a little block of metal that just basically holds open my front door.
Nothing wrong with buying a stock that pays a good dividend. I have no problem with that. The problem is, what are you getting paid that dividend in? You're getting paid dividends in fiat currency, in dollars, and the number of dollars that are being created are rising almost exponentially with every bailout, with every TARP program, with every stimulus program, and quantitative easing now. So there's no end in sight. And in terms of the creation of dollars. So what are those dollars going to be worth in the future? That's the big question. And we do know that gold cannot be created endlessly. It's very difficult to pull gold out of the ground. It takes a lot of engineering, a lot of science, a lot of capital. So it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Unlike fiat money, which you can create out of thin air infinitely, and that's apparently what our chairman of the Federal Reserve plans to do.
Which I understand completely, but at the same time, I can't buy food for my kids with a block of gold these days. So it doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot to me what it's worth.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You can buy a heck of a lot more food with that gold now than you could have with stocks going back 8 or 10 years ago. Take your gold, sell it for currency, and buy the food you need. I mean, look, the gold to Dow ratio was 44 to 1. It's now about 8 to 1. So I think we're going to 1 to 1 ultimately before this bull market in gold is over and before the bear market in equities is over. That's my position.
David, are you buying any of that?
Absolutely not. Gee, I'd rather get some income in fiat money than get no income at all. But in terms of where gold is going, investment 101 is two things. One is to buy low, sell high. And looking at a commodity that's tripled since 2004, doubled since 2008, up 30%, no one here can say it is not high. Second of all, the consensus now is we're going to have this QE2. But consensus can change so much, and you don't make money by buying into the consensus. At the start of the year, it was about how quickly can the Federal Reserve reduce its balance sheet. Don't buy long-dated Treasury bonds. What happened?
Yeah,
now they're trying to increase the balance sheet, and long-dated Treasury bonds have been the best asset going. So you want to be skeptical here.
I'm totally skeptical, but here's the thing. There's all this talk, David, about people owning gold, and yet about $2.7 billion was poured into gold from the beginning of the year to July, and yet $155 billion was poured into bonds. So who's really buying this gold, or is it just a bunch of commercials with E. Gordon Liddy?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky question. Basically, it's speculators. Remember, it takes a lot of effort, as my co-guest said, to get the gold out of the ground. But once it's out of the ground, it's never basically used up, has virtually no use. Even jewelry is basically, for most parts of the world, an investment that can be melted down and put back on the market at the right price. So you've got this huge inventory overhang, and as much money that's gone into gold since the start of this year can go right back out again.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Jay. I'd wear platinum any day over gold anyway. So why wouldn't I just invest in some of the other metals at this point? I mean, to me, if gold is floating on fear, I can't invest on fear. That scares me. There's no quantitative number put on fear. I can quantitatively look at the other metals.
Well, I don't think there's much fear. I don't think fear is really driving gold. It's certainly not many Americans are fearful yet and are buying gold. I think the buying is coming from the really smart money. I think it's coming from the central banks like China. I think you're seeing some of the big investors like George Soros, the Paulson fellow there with the hedge fund. No, and to the notion that gold is expensive, I beg to differ with David, because you have to measure gold against the number of dollars that are out there. And if you start to compare the number of dollars with the amount of ounces of gold that cannot be increased as the dollars are being increased exponentially, then I don't buy the notion that gold is really expensive right now.
But expensive or not, I'm not sure, again, how I can buy shoes or food. But we got to bring in our all-star panel. On the left, from the Economic Policy Institute, is Kristen Dorsey, my good old friend. Political consultant Naomi Wolf is here with us as well. And on the right, the one and only Senator Alphonse D'Amato and Fox News contributor Steven Crowder. Senator, I'm going to start with you. Gold is up. A lot of it has to do with this so-called fear because we don't know what's happening. Come November 2nd, if we get a decision, will that take the fear away?
I don't think the fear is going to go away immediately. You'll begin to tamp down the concerns that people have, legitimate concerns, and that is the devaluation of the dollar. Just take a look at it. It's taking place, and it has been taking place. And so you're going to continue to have people who hedge, who use the gold as a hedge against this. And when and if the Congress and the President come together with a real program to begin to trim the deficit so you don't have billion-dollar or trillion-dollar deficits every year, then you will see the price of gold come down. So there are many out there. Yes, there are the speculators, but it's not a bad idea for a person of even relatively modest means to buy $10,000 worth of gold coins, put them away.
So not these bricks.
And give them to your kids, I guess? Christian,
I would not.
These bricks.
No, I'm not going to take this brick.
The props. We're low budget. Don't touch.
Well, and you see,
Christian.
just like these props, gold is a very risky investment. You know, gold is not finite. Gold is produced all the time. Once it's made into something, it stays there forever. Gold is mined all the time. So for people who believe that it's got hard value as opposed to a dollar, they're missing the point. It only has value that we ascribe to it. And at some point, this overvalued commodity is going to come crashing down.
Yes.
When gold corrects, it does so in a sharp V formation. It's not going to ease down over time and make it easy for people to sort of get out when they want. They're going to come crashing down.
Much like when you drop a brick, although don't drop the gold bricks on our set, they'll go floating up into space. Jay Taylor, David Dietz, thank you so much for joining us. All right, well, while gold is skyrocketing, oil has, believe it or not, taken a dip to $81.47. But can oil still be your key to making millions in this commodities market? I don't know. Max Alvarez, though, is proof that it just may be. He started out buying a single gas station, and now his company, Sunshine Gasoline, manages 152 retail outlets and supplies more than 200 independently owned stations. Max, thanks so much for being with us and sharing your story. This is an interesting angle, right? Instead of going out and buying an oil ETF, you're basically saying, go buy a gas station.
Well, this is what our company has done from 1987 on. We are not investors in Wall Street, and we only invest in those assets that we can manage and control.
So you have a hard asset, and that helps you understand better where things are going, but you're so reliant on the price of oil, aren't you? If gas prices go up, I'm driving less, I'm not coming to the gas station.
Not necessarily. In today's market, the gas station has other businesses besides the sale of gasoline. Most gas stations today, which traditionally had service station service base, today they have convenience stores. They also have restaurants. They have car washes. In essence, they have many other businesses that really supplement the sale of gasoline.
And it's certainly one of the very few places left on the planet to get a Slim Jim. Sir, what about financing these days, though? Is there financing available if I do decide this might be the way to go?
Well, we all in the same economy, so it's just as difficult to finance a gas station today as it is probably to finance a house. However, a lot of people have realized that, you know, the gas station business, it's recession-proof a lot more than other businesses. Again, we're dealing in energy, and it's something that everybody needs. So gas station business has maintained its level of operation, and we have done fairly well, sometimes better than other times, but in general, it's a very good business to be in.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting business, Naomi, right? I mean, and as gas goes up, it's an indirect tax on the American consumer because we do drive. We drive a lot, and really, by the time we see people staying home, we're talking about gas at $5. So what does that mean for us going forward? I mean,
well, I think we should ask ourselves, how did we get into this situation where basically the oil industry is holding us all hostage? And if we want to get to work or want to pick up our kids from daycare, it's a huge chunk out of the average family's paycheck. There's a reason that we're not developing alternative fuels and biofuels the way that Europe is. I just spent 3 months in Europe, and there are wind farms everywhere. There are whole parts of the grid that are going onto solar and wind energy. And they're really solution-driven. It's because their political system is free of the kind of pressure on ours on both parties that the oil industry exerts.
Well, I mean, Stephen, there's something to be said about that, though, right? Our reliance on foreign energy, foreign oil, it's got to stop.
Right, we absolutely do. We have more than enough resources to rely on our own resources here in the United States. And it was liberals, of course, who killed wind energy here in the Northeast. And, of course, it was liberals who killed solar power in California.
They killed Elvis, too?
In solar power in California. Oil, you know, we love to use these buzzwords, big oil. I mean, oh, we feel they're evil, but their profit margins aren't any larger than Coca-Cola or Apple computers. And I want to commend this gentleman here for what he's doing. He's providing a service that Americans need, unlike a lot of speculators on Wall Street who really provide no service.
Can I just jump in? We're not going to war in Afghanistan and Iraq for Coca-Cola.
We're not going to war in Afghanistan for oil either.
But Max, Stephen makes a good point. Your margins on your Slim Jims are bigger than they are on the oil. Is that right?
Well, traditionally, this has been the case for a long time, and people do not realize that the profit margin on gasoline is very cents. And being a commodity, we do not make a profit based on the sale. So it really doesn't matter to us whether a gallon of gasoline is $5 or $1. We make cents per gallon. So as a matter of fact, the higher the price of gasoline goes up, the less money that we make, simply because it's a very competitive business. And you have choices in just about every corner.
There's a lot of people to blame for this problem. One of the reasons Max has a great business is because he doesn't tell you that he and his family work literally 24 hours a day to get this thing going. That's a lot of hard work. You don't just go out and buy this. And you notice he said we had it at the convenience stores, and that's what makes it go. A lot of blame to go around.
Yeah.
How come there's no nuclear energy?
Well,
because we got the very, let me, I'll listen to you. We have, why no nuke? Because the administration, instead of pushing, has layers and layers of what you have to do, what you can't do. It takes you 8 years. Once you get approval to build a plant, we have 2 that maybe we'll start. Maybe we'll start. Why don't we have clean coal? And why aren't we pushing alternatives? Why aren't we really pushing offshore safe? I want safety.
Right.
And so it is all of these factors. But if you become so wed to no nuke in my backyard, why then we're going to continue to be dependent upon big oil.
Senator,
and that's our fallacy.
You're right, and it should be everything. It should be everything. Everything. Let's try it all. Max Alvarez, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for being with us, sir.